All right, let's talk about something really creepy. We're diving into one of Japan's most famous and honestly, most terrifying paranormal stories. It's all about the Okiku doll, a simple child's toy that, well, it seems it just refused to let go of its owner even after she died. I mean, think about it. What happens when a kid's best friend, their favorite toy, just won't let go? It's a pretty chilling thought, right? We usually see dolls as these comforting things for kids. But this story completely flips that idea on its head and asks a really dark question about an attachment that just doesn't end with death. So let's get right into it. So where does this all start? Well, funny enough, it doesn't begin with horror. It actually starts with love. It's a story about a big brother who just adored his little sister and wanted to get her the perfect gift. A single gift that, as you'll see, would change everything for their family, forever. Okay, so picture this. We're in Japan. The year is 1918. There's this 17-year-old kid named Aikichi Suzuki, and he's basically on a mission. His little sister Kikuko is about to have her 4th birthday, and he is determined to make it the best one ever. Now, this wasn't gonna be easy. Not at all. The Suzuki family, they didn't have much money. Ikichi's dad was a laborer, taking whatever odd jobs he could find, and his mom worked as a seamstress. And little Kikuko, for her big 4th birthday, she just wanted one thing more than anything else in the world, a doll. A doll to be her best friend. But for a family that was just scraping by, a toy like that, it was a huge luxury, something they just couldn't afford. But Aikichi, he just couldn't stand the thought of his sister being disappointed. So, you know what he did? For a whole month, he worked his tail off, taking any little job he could find and saving up every single penny. He was so determined. And finally, with that hard-earned money in hand, he went out looking for the perfect doll. And that's when he found it. There it was, sitting in a shop window, a traditional Japanese doll, wearing a little red kimono with black hair cut to about its neck. But it was the face that really got to Eikichi. It looked peaceful, but its eyes, man, its eyes were something else. They were so deep, it was almost like they were actually alive, like they were watching everything. He knew he had to buy it. He bought it right then and there. And as you can imagine, Kikuko was absolutely thrilled with her gift. For a little while, that doll brought so much joy into their house. But that happiness, it wasn't meant to last. It was so fleeting. And very soon, that little doll would turn into a constant, painful reminder of an unbelievable tragedy. I mean, Kikuko was just over the moon. She named the doll Okiku, and from that moment on, they were inseparable. Seriously, she took it everywhere. She'd comb its hair, she slept with it every single night. Okiku wasn't just a toy anymore, it was her absolute best friend. And then, just like that, the worst happened. While she was playing outside one day, Kikuko got bitten by a mosquito. She came down with a really bad case of malaria, and her health just plummeted. Right up until her very last breath, she was holding on to that Okiku doll, and then she was gone. Now, there's a tradition in Japan where you often cremate a person's most treasured possession right along with them. And the Suzukis, of course, wanted to do this with Okiku. But for whatever reason, and we don't really know why, the local temple wouldn't allow it. So to remember their little girl, they put the doll up on a shelf in their main hall. And right there, that's when the real horror of this story kicks off. So the family, completely heartbroken, is just trying to find a way to move on. But it wasn't long before really strange, totally unexplainable things started to happen around the house. You know, it was subtle at first, but it got more and more disturbing with every day that passed. It started with Ikichi. Late at night, he'd start hearing these faint sounds coming from the main hall, where the doll was. He said it sounded just like his sister's voice, sometimes a whisper, sometimes a soft little laugh. He'd get up to check, of course, but nothing. No one was there. And pretty soon, his parents started to hear it too. But then it went from sounds to something physical, something they could see. One day, Ikichi was cleaning and put the doll back on the shelf, and he just froze. He noticed something that was completely impossible. The doll's hair, which was definitely cut to neck length, right? It was now down to its shoulders. It had grown. And here's the really freaky part. It wasn't just longer. It looked disturbingly human. The color was changing from that jet black to a more brownish color. And get this, it even had split ends. It felt like real human hair. The family was terrified, but they tried to rationalize it.
Eikichi's mom even grabbed a pair of scissors and trimmed the hair right back to its original length. And let me tell you, that was a huge mistake.
That very night, Aikichi's mother had this incredibly vivid, absolutely terrifying nightmare. She saw Kikuko and she was crying, just furious that they'd cut her doll's hair. Then, in the dream, Kikuko's face just twists into this look of pure anger, and the mother wakes up screaming. But the reason she's screaming isn't just the nightmare. It's because the Okiku doll, it wasn't on the shelf anymore. It was sitting right on top of her chest. Okay, so after that night, things just went from bad to worse fast. The haunting wasn't subtle anymore, no more whispers or groaning hair. Whatever was attached to that doll was done playing games. It was now making its presence known in the most direct and, frankly, the most terrifying ways you can imagine. So get this, one evening, the whole family is sitting together and they all see it happen at the same time. The doll, just sitting there on its shelf, slowly turns its head to look right at them. And then it blinked. I mean, can you imagine? Any little bit of doubt they might have been clinging to, any hope that this was all just stress or grief, it was completely gone in that 1 second. They knew they were living with something that wasn't just haunted, it was alive. That was it. They couldn't live like that for another second. They decided, right then and there, they had to get rid of this thing. Eikichi's dad took the doll out to a field nearby. He dug a deep hole and he buried it. They must have been so relieved, just praying that this was finally the end of their nightmare. But it wasn't the end, not even close. That very same night, the family is shocked awake by this violent banging on their front door. And along with the banging, they hear a sound that would just chill you to the bone. A little girl's voice screaming like she was in pain, begging them to let her in. The banging gets louder and louder, it's shaking the whole house. And then, suddenly, silence. So the father, he works up every ounce of courage he has, and he opens the door, and there it is, the Okiku doll, just standing there on the doorstep. And before he can even react, the doll's hair just explodes outward. It starts growing at this insane speed, shooting out like snakes, wrapping around his neck and just squeezing. He can't breathe. He's being strangled. The only thing that saves him is Ikihichi, who screams his sister's name, Kikuko. And just like that, the hair goes totally limp and the doll just clatters to the floor. You'd think that attack would be the final straw, right? The end of the story? Well, it wasn't. In fact, the doll's terrifying legacy was really only just getting started. And believe it or not, it continues all the way to today. And this is maybe the most shocking part of the story. The Suzuki family lived with this thing for 20 years. 20 years of this horror. Every single time they tried to get rid of the doll, it would just come back. And the activity always got worse around the anniversary of Kikuko's birthday. Finally, after 2 full decades of being tormented, they did the only thing they could think of. They gave the doll to the monks at the Maninji Buddhist temple. And here's the kicker. The doll is still at that temple. Today, more than 100 years later, it's still there. And it is still changing. The monks say its hair continues to grow and they actually have to trim it regularly.
Please like and subscribe.
But maybe the most horrifying part of all, its mouth, which was once sealed shut, has slowly started to open over the years. And visitors and monks swear they can see something inside. They claim it's growing small, human-like teeth. So all of this leaves us with one last, really haunting question. What exactly is inside the Okiku doll? Is it still the spirit of a little girl just desperately trying to hold on to her family and her favorite toy? Or after all this time, after a whole century, has that innocent spirit been twisted? Or maybe even replaced by something else entirely? Something much, much darker. I'll let you think about that one.
Please like and subscribe Horror channel.